Welcome into another edition of Braves Central. Barely Chris Domino with you. Of course, we are your hosts of the Ford Leadoff Show, pregame show leading into every single Braves game. And it's been an interesting couple of days since we last did this, Chris. The Braves dropped 2 of 3 to the Mets. The pitching is a disaster. And then naturally, Bryce Elder comes in and saves the day with the solid performance on Sunday. And that leads us into an interesting week. We have the Marlins and then 4 with the Phillies. I think for this group of Braves, pitching is the key. You want to see Spencer Strider bounce back. You want to see Hurston Waldrip continue his development. I think this is it's an interesting series from that regard because you do need pitching to finish this thing out. And these are 2 guys that you're going to be counting on not only this year, but next year as well.
Chris Sale coming back, and then Joey Wentz will get an opportunity to try to fix what ailed him the other day. So, yeah, it's an interesting week of Braves pitching, no doubt about it, as we get ready to turn the calendar to September 1st. It's not necessarily you're in the hunt, and it's not necessarily let's find out who can get on a heater and maybe over 5 starts really be the guy that leads the charge to push this team back into the postseason picture. That's all done. But it is an interesting week in the fact that you have Strider. Waldrop's been so good. Here comes Chris Sale. And then I think Joey Wentz at the back end of the week trying to recover or whatever that was, whatever the right word is. He's got to bounce back after that, which was just not good. But we had said Waldrop's going to get kicked in the teeth at some point, if not twice, over the next 5 weeks. What do you do after that? Joey Wentz is going to have a few days to think about it. He's going to work with his catchers. He's going to work with his pitching coach. And we'll find out if there was anything that he just felt, or was it a day that happens to everybody? Doesn't matter how good you are. You know, maybe this side of Paul Skeens, everybody gets knocked around a little bit, especially as a young guy. Or a guy without a lot of experience. I don't want to put Joey Wentz into the young guy category anymore. He's not a young guy anymore.
He is definitely not a young guy. Hurston Waldrip's going to be fascinating to me because he was highly touted. He comes in last year. He gets his teeth kicked in a little bit, and it's been smooth sailing this year. And you're right. The book is going to come out on him. He's going to have struggles. It's not going to come as easy to him as it has during his first 4 appearances. I think the biggest thing for him is how does he bounce back? Because in reality, the Braves will have a pretty good problem next season if a lot of these pitching pieces come in to play, with Hurston Waldrip being a big part of that. Maybe Grant Holmes doesn't have that Tommy John and the rehab works just fine. Maybe Raylo has the ability to go either in the bullpen or back in that starting rotation, assuming Schwelly is fine too. You're going to have quite a few options. The back end is going to be where they're fighting. And I think for Hurston Waldrip, that's huge because he has proven he belongs at this level. He does. Now, is that something that's permanent? Is it going to be part of this rotation moving forward? I think a lot of that does depend on how he reacts, how he adjusts to the inevitable bad game, bad start, the book coming out on him. Snit said after the game, I think it was yesterday, that there are 4 or 5 guys who are entrenched. Everybody else is fighting for next season. Everybody else is fighting for their future with this organization. Now, obviously, their futures can change. We've seen that this year. But going into spring trading, there needs to be sort of a rough draft. And that's what a lot of these guys are fighting for, including Hurston Waldrip.
I don't write anything in pen, especially when it comes to pitching, because the health thing is certainly going to be a part of it. Hurston Waldrip's in his rotation. Now, I'll tell you how he wouldn't be. He gets traded because he's good enough where if you need something and somebody wants something, Hurston Waldrip might be a guy that I would ask for right at the top of the Braves list. I don't know when the last time a Braves pitcher went 5-0, but Hurston Waldrip's going to have an opportunity this August to be a 5-0 pitcher of the month, rookie of the month, pitcher of the month, whatever it might be. He'll get another start before we turn the calendar. I'm curious about that as well. Can he run the table on the month of August? But everything else, every indication to me is he's the perfect draft him, watch him, moment, back down, figure something out, come back up, and I pay you $765,000 to be a bona fide starter for this team. I mean, I don't even know how he wouldn't, short of it being a health issue, be a part of this rotation, or, as I said, unless he gets traded.
It's going to be fun to watch him develop. Now, it has been fun to watch Nacho Alvarez because now he's got a month and a half where he's the unquestioned starting third baseman. But going into next season, that does mean he's blocked a little bit. So is he a trade piece? Is he somebody who you might have to teach shortstop to, so he can be a third baseman, second baseman, shortstop backup for this team next year, because he belongs, but he's blocked. So how do you keep him in the major leagues? Well, you make him indispensable. And if Nick Allen's going to be the starting shortstop, and I think you and I are in agreement, that's fine if the bats continue to progress, and you don't have to ask him to turn the lineup over consistently and hit 300. And, that's just not what he's there for. If that's going to be the case, if that is plan A, then Nacho needs to find a way to stay up, to be indispensable. He clearly belongs, because what he's done since Austin Riley has since it's been known that Austin is not going to be back this year, has been nothing short of impressive. Now, how does he stay? Because it's not the same way as he has stayed this time.
Good defensive third baseman. I don't think he's a shortstop. To be determined, maybe, if that's the direction they want to go. Would there be a fight for that job? And then the loser of that fight becomes the utility backup infielder. I don't think Nick Allen can play third base. I'd imagine he could certainly play second base. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious. I don't know about, what 1 month of the bat. Look, it's better than it was last year, obviously. Do I believe he's a bona fide offensive player? To be determined. He has no power. Maybe it's going to come. Maybe he's going to run into home runs. But I can't play a guy at third base who I don't think can hit a home run. And doubles are nice, but at the end of the day, that's not what you do at third baseman. So I don't know really what it is. I don't know. Is he a second baseman? He's got a big ass. I mean, he's sort of a dumper guy. I don't think he's really a shortstop. But would you do the Ozzie thing with him and let him play second base because you think you're going to get enough offense out of him? Me personally, I'd rather have Ozzie. I mean, if you're asking me straight up, which guy would I rather have, Ozzie at $7 million or this guy for league minimum, I'll take Ozzie. But I don't run the show. And if he's a backup guy, if he's, you don't root for injury. But if you give him the next man up tag, be the next man up and do something. It's certainly been better offensively. He can swing a bat, he can hit doubles. Again, I don't know where his power is. It's kind of odd with 100 at-bats that you don't really see. I don't believe that he's a home run guy. Everybody keeps telling me 10 to 15, and I'll believe it when I see it. Doesn't mean he can't. Doesn't mean he can't learn pitchers where he actually becomes a little bit a better guess hitter, and a ball that he can drive, he drives, but to be determined. I can't have that as a third baseman, because now I'm playing that game of, well, my shortstop doesn't hit home runs, my third baseman doesn't hit home runs, but look, I got a left fielder named Austin Riley, and what am I going to do with Profar? So my guess is he's sitting behind Austin Riley. He becomes the swing guy, unless, again, somebody believes that Nacho Alvarez is worth doing in a deal, and they ask for him as part of one. That's sort of the way I see it going.
Look, Sean Murphy was 0 for 24. He had a good day yesterday, and that was really, it seems like that's the exception, not the rule now. And one of the biggest questions going into the offseason is, are the Braves okay with this Drake-Sean designated
Well, you might as well just say we're running it
thing?
back. Let's just say that 2025 is a repeat of 2026 is a repeat of 2025. Because what else are you going to do? Because now we're going to deal with the Iglesias and Marcell Ozuna thing. And if you're going to tell me that Sean Murphy's sticking around, I'm assuming that's the DH catcher thing. And Marcell Ozuna doesn't stay. If not, then I'm going to let Sean Murphy, his bad offense, whatever he's bringing on defense, great. But how am I going to split the games? Am I just going to go lefty, righty platoon? I don't know. He's a trade candidate. Sean Murphy, though, if you hit 215, you hit 215. If you hit 220, you hit 220. He goes on power surges. He can hit a few home runs, and it'll get a little bit hot. And maybe he's a 15 to 20 home run guy because of those surges. And is that enough to have around a $15 million? Sure, except I'm retarding the development of the guy that's behind him. And am I just going to say Marcell Ozuna walks, and we're not going to buy a DH, and then, God forbid, one of those two guys gets hurt, and it ain't Nacho Alvarez who becomes your DH all of a sudden? Do you play him at third and Austin Riley becomes your DH? I don't know. But it's starting to feel like that's more the run-it-back scenario than I would like to see.
Yeah, I think the questions need to be answered over the next 5 weeks. And there are a lot of them. I mean, there are a lot of them. And specifically, what does Alex Anthopoulos do in the free agent market, in the trade market? I think what happens with the designated hitter then translates to what happens in free agency. And sometimes in free agency, maybe you have to go get somebody with more power. I mean, there are so many moving parts. Now, it's a luxury and it's a problem. It's a problem because you don't have any answers right now. And it might not be a case where you get answers, but the luxury is that you're flexible and you can go a different direction and kind of bob and weave through the offseason if you need to.
So you got to prove you're a better baseball team next year. And whether it's the injuries, whether it's the offense being better, go get Byron Buxton and make Profar your DH. You want to do that? Go do that. You know, hope that he hits 23, 24, 25 home runs, make him your DH. Let Byron Buxton play in the outfield. I mean, I'm trying because, if not, it will be a run it back year. And maybe that's going to be good enough. But I keep saying, you didn't win in 22, you didn't win in 23, you didn't win in 24, and you certainly didn't win in 2025. So we're not running it back after one bad year. We're running it back after years of not winning in the postseason, on top of 2025. So you want to do a trade? Go get Byron Buxton. He's certainly a better outfielder than Profar is. Tell him not to run into walls. Tell him to stay healthy. Exercise him. You know, give him a little frankincense and myrrh or whatever the hell it is that you do to do an exorcism now, and let him play in the outfield and let Profar be a DH. I mean, I got at some point, and I'm going to do this probably before the season ends or right after, maybe when the playoffs start. I'm going to spend $250 million, and I'm going to tell you this is what I would do. Now, there's always going to be a catch. Just because I offer a guy money in free agency doesn't mean he's going to take it. But if I'm going to spend $250, let's say I'm going to go from 218, 220 up to 250, and I'm going to possibly eliminate Marcel and Iglesias, and I have Spencer Strider getting his bump, and I have Ozzy's money, whatever it is, I'm going to spend $250 million. And I don't know if the Braves are going to spend that much. I don't know if they're going to spend $220 with $30 in reserve to do a trade deadline deal if they have to. That seems to be the way they've done things in the past. They want a little bit of a pile over here because if they want to add, it's not necessarily going to be on top of what the top line budget was. We'll see. But I'll do $250 million, and I'll find out if I can convince somebody to take my money in free agency or if I can swing a deal. And I'm not telling you it's a great idea, but if I had Buxton and I played him in left, and I tell Profar, you DH. Marcell Ozuna's gone. I'm not paying for him. Let me ask you, who would you rather have DH in next year, Profar or Ozuna? Like, nobody's asked this question yet. Who would you rather have, Profar or Ozuna, if you got another left fielder? A better defensive outfielder, by the way.
I would say Profar still because he is a super utility guy, and it kind of eliminates another problem that you would have if you go after a DH.
Exactly. Well, you can play him in the outfield in any of those three spots if you needed to, whether it was a day off or if somebody is sitting for 10 days, 15 days. I can play him all over. I can shift around my outfield. So think about that because he's on the hook for $14 million. $14 million is not $25 or $30 million that you'd spend for Schwarber or an Alonso. And is that an answer? If you got Byron Buxton or a better left fielder, they make the same money. I'm going to have Buxton and Profar for $28 million next year if I could pull that deal off. Could I live in that world? I could. And at least it doesn't feel like a run it back. It doesn't get me Schwarber's numbers. It doesn't get me Alonso's numbers as a DH. But at least it gets a guy who can't really play left field or makes a great play, then all of a sudden can't play left field. It puts Buxton in the outfield again. I'm just going to extra pad those walls everywhere in the outfield if Byron Buxton comes. I'm putting another 6 inches of padding up. I'm going to tell him, please, when you hit the warning track, just stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just put your arm up. If you catch it, you catch it. If you don't, you don't. So I'm going to ask that on the regular show today. We'll bring it up. If you had a choice of Profar or Ozuna, and it's $14 million for Profar, who you have, and let's just say Ozuna, it's $10 million, which one would you rather have? Well, at least I know one of them has a glove. Yeah. Ozuna on his better days will give me more consistent pop for his streaks, but maybe Profar because I have him. Maybe he's settled in. Maybe he relaxes. Maybe he gives me 25 homers next year as a guy who doesn't have to worry about playing in the outfield.
Yeah, and he can give anybody a break. I think that it goes back to something that the Padres have done, and we've talked about this. You draft 9 shortstops, and then you figure it out. Is Profar a good left fielder? No. Is he adequate if you need somebody to come in a pinch? Yes. Is Profar a starting infielder? No. Is he adequate if you need somebody to come in a pinch or give somebody a day off? Yes. So I would absolutely have Profar in that spot if you go get somebody like Byron.
Or the other choice is, if I get a left fielder, do I move him into the infield and I just say,
Sure.
I have 20 homers coming from my shortstop, and I'll deal with the defense that he is sort of a notch down from Nick Allen. Could you even play him at second base? Again, I'll spend $250 million. I'll let it be. We'll put it out there. But the Profar Ozuna thing is the one question I am going to ask today. Who would you rather have if you got an outfielder, and just say, who's your everyday DH?
That's a very good question, and there's a lot of nuance to it as well, which again kind of goes back to the point earlier. The Braves have a lot of different ways to approach this offseason, which is a good thing when all is said and done. All right, he's Chris Domino. I'm Barrett Salim. Marlins series coming up. We'll have everything covered on the Ford Leadoff Show, and of course, I'll have postseason wrap on the Hyundai postgame show after the fact. This has been Braves Central. Share it, like it, do all of that stuff, comment on it. If you're doing the podcasting, if you're listening or watching right now, you know how to do that clearly. So if your neighbor doesn't, send them a text. Share this with them, because we want to make this. We already know it has the best content out there. We want to share this to the rest of the world. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.